Hi, welcome to the Nurture Nature Show. I am the Reverend Dr. Laura Kim Joyner of One Earth Conservation and Ministry. I serve as wildlife veterinarian and Unitarian Universalist minister. During our time together, we will have a chance to nurture ourselves so that we can nurture all of nature. Welcome into this community of hope and nourishment and solidarity with all of life. Welcome to today's show. Our theme is the heart of lightness, developing spiritual intelligence to nurture ourselves. So we better start with, well, what is spiritual intelligence? Well, it's the ability to transcend the individual ego and our daily concerns so that we can grow wiser and be more compassionate and have more justice and wholeness in the world. It means that we're able to love all of this earth and Earth's beings. And by doing so, we nurture ourselves. And that's what this show is about, taking care of ourselves, nurturing ourselves so we can nurture all of life. So thank you for being with me today, because I so want you to be nurtured and all of life. Let us begin today with these opening words from Ralph Waldo Emerson. We have a great deal more kindness than is ever spoken. The whole human family is bathed with an element of love like a fine ether. How many persons we meet in houses whom we scarcely speak to, whom yet we honor and who honor us. How many we see in the street or sit with in church, whom though silently we warmly rejoice to be with. Read the language of the wondering eye beams. The heart knoweth. So I invite you to come on a journey with me today through the heart, through the journey of our heart. And you all know this journey. You know about the journey of human nature. And I wonder if your journey is a bit like Joseph Conrad's story of the heart of darkness. In this story, Marlowe is looking for Kurtz, and he goes deep into the Congo. And as he goes along, he discovers just the awfulness of human life. Is that what you see when you go looking in your heart? Not looking for Kurtz, but looking for hurts? Do you see, like Marlowe, the darkness of the human soul? Do you see that we subjugate others, we fall to illness, we fall to death, and strip and injure the land as we go? But if we can go even deeper, like Marlowe did, you know what he saw as he went in? He saw beauty everywhere in the jungle. And human relationships are a jungle. They are just a mess. But if we look deeper, we can see beauty and maybe even have a sense of lightness. So do you, when you look in your heart, do you see darkness? Or do you imagine your beauty connected to the beauty all around and feel a lightness because of that? So on our journey today, look in and tell me, what is it that you see? Do you see darkness, which I call fear? Or do you see lightness, which I call love? We see lightness because all the daily things are going well for us. But what happens if these daily things go away? Joseph Conrad, in that book, The Heart of Darkness, writes, these little things, they make all the great difference in the world. When they are gone, though, you must fall back upon your own innate strength, upon your own capacity for faithfulness, on spiritual practice. And of course, you may be a fool to go wrong, too dull to even know that you are being assaulted by the powers of darkness. Or you may be such a thundering, exalted creature as to be altogether deaf and blind to anything but heavenly sights and sounds. Then the earth for you is only a standing place, a resting place, And whether to be like this in your loss or your gain, I don't know. I won't pretend to say. But most of us are neither one or the other. We know of darkness and we know of light. We know fear and we know love. But we have choice on how we can fill our hearts. I have known darkness and light myself. I work on frontline conservation in Central America, and every day there's some darkness, some tragedy, some challenge where the animals and the habitat and the children and the birds are suffering. There is death and senseless loss in this world. But I have a spiritual practice that I have that comes out of the quote from a movie called The Thin Red Line. In this movie, and I quote, there is a man, and he's a soldier in World War II on the Pacific island of Guadalcanal. And he sees a dying bird that has just been bombed out of the trees and is dying. And he looks at this bird and he says, one man sees a dying bird and sees nothing but unanswerable pain, that death has got the final word, that it's laughing at him. And another man looks at that same bird and sees the glory, sees a light shining through it, somehow a smile coming through. And so that's my practice, is to be able to have a lightness in the midst of all the tragedy. And to do this spiritual practice means we can't shut down anything or we will disconnect. It means feeling everything, and it makes us alive. It's not about feeling comfortable, it is about feeling everything. And so we open ourselves to life and to the birds that are alive and dead, as in my own practice. And if we can do that, we can hear life calling to us. And so we don't just see falling, or we don't see failing, or darkness, or hardness, but what we see is also lightness at the same time. And we know what we're supposed to do here. We are supposed to soar. And that's what this spiritual practice can do as we grow our spiritual intelligence. And so how can we do that exactly? Well, there's this great poem by Jean Latimer, and she gives us the directions for a spiritual practice to grow our spiritual intelligence. So here's how her poem begins. There is a moment in time when the soul chooses love over fear. It may take eons to reach that point, but when it comes, it sweeps away all distrust, all suffering, and judgment. We can prepare for it by practicing these simple techniques. Right, so simple, but so really hard to do. And that's why I'm glad you're traveling with me today, because we can't do it alone. And so she goes on and says, this is the first step. We practice feeling everything so that when love comes, we feel it fully, so we can choose to soar. Now, you may think that feeling everything, it's not to live in a maelstrom of emotions going and having no control. No, it's the very opposite. By feeling everything, it gives us a choice to take the path to not be sucked in, to be able to serve life and serve ourselves. But to do that, we have to know what life is telling us what we need and the world needs. So we have to be really open to what the needs are in the moment. And sometimes we just don't know what we need. We got these emotions going on, we're being swirled around. Well, what is it I need in this moment? So we can help each other with this. And so let me tell you a story. I was giving a workshop once on helping people connect to feelings and needs. And so that was the morning session, and then we went off to lunch. And after lunch, a mother came in and she said, it works, it works, it works. I said, what works? And she said, well, you said that sometimes people don't know what they need, so we have to guess, especially with children that are pre-verbal. So my daughter was having a meltdown in the back seat, and nothing I said could do it. And I said, wait, let me ask her what she needs. I said, honey, are you hungry? And my daughter went, oh, I am hungry. Okay, we'll be at the restaurant soon, and we'll be able to give you some food. And after that, the daughter just rode peacefully onto the restaurant. So we can help each other figure out what it is that our feelings and needs are. And let me just give you another clue about if you're not really sure what your feelings or needs are. If you're a U.S. citizen or almost anybody, chances are you're short on sleep. So if you're having a meltdown or the emotions are going around and you don't know what you need in the moment, go take a nap, get a good night's rest, get something to drink, eat something, breathe deep, and then you'll be able to check in with what it is that you need. Now there's another little hint that I can also give you on what we can do, and this is the 90-10 rule, all righty? So 90-10 rule. So if you're having a sustained emotional reaction and you're not really to have choice around it, 90% of that comes from your past. And 10% is from what's actually going on now. And the amygdala, it's the part of our brain that controls or has the emotions go through it, doesn't tell time really well. And so when you start to feel fear and you have some thoughts that going, I'm afraid, it's going to go back to all the times you were afraid, and it's not going to help you live in the present moment with the needs that you need now. So one way to calm the amygdala down and try to come to the present moment is to just to say, out loud even, I am feeling, let's say, fear, because I need this in this moment. And by doing that, the amygdala goes, oh, I don't need to think about then, I'm thinking about now. And it gives us choice in that very moment so that we can make choices and choose between fear and between love. So try that the next time you're having an emotional reaction. So what else can we do? Well, it sounds so easy, right? I'm just saying, just try this the next time. But the thing is, we do carry wounds from the past. I don't want to make light of what we all have gone through, what our culture and our species has gone through. There is sexism, there is racism, there is speciesism. It's a tough world, and we carry that with us, and it's in us. So this takes practice, perhaps eons, as Jean Latimer says, so that when love comes, we can actually choose love over fear. Okay, now Latimer goes on to say there's some other things that we can do. The next step in spiritual practice. We practice mindfulness so that when love comes, it is sustained by the discipline of choice, not to indulge in the small mind's need to negate and judge. Mindfulness allows us to choose, gives us choice even when our needs are not being met. It allows us again to come to the present moment. And let me give you another hint on how we can do this. Here's a practice you can just go and try at home, and you can do it at a dinner party. It's a great little trick. You can try it at your dinner table too at home with your family. So here's what this is. I want you to write a sentence, a pretty short sentence, about a situation where you experienced discomfort, an uncomfortable feeling. And if you had judgment about yourself or someone else, that's even better. So just picture that scenario, a confrontation. All righty? And then write that sentence down, whatever it is. So let's practice with me since I'm here. So let's say, what would my sentence be? Well, let's say we're 3 weeks before the USA election. And I would say, oh, God, I'm so angry and frustrated and irritated and bored, on and on with all this maelstroms of feelings, right? Every time I hear a politician, I just know they're making stuff up. They don't care about us. Yikes. Yeah, maybe you can relate to some of that. So my sentence might be, those politicians, they're not telling the truth. They just care about themselves. I hate this election process. That's my sentence. Okay, so here's the practice. We'll ring a bell, and then you just say that sentence to yourself over and over again. I hate the political process. I don't trust the politicians. And I'm going to do that in a short time, and maybe you can look at my facial expressions to see what I might be feeling. And then you all read it with me too. So we'll ring the bell. And so I'm saying it to myself. I hate those politicians. I can't trust anything they say. Ding. And then you ask people, or you check in with yourself, what are you feeling? And we were doing it pretty speed-wise, so you can't really tell what was going on for me, but you probably could see I was frowning. So a lot of people experience tension of the muscles in the face, frowny, jaw clenched, tense, arms maybe clenched like this, shoulders forward, tense through here, their stomach flipping, not breathing, holding their breath, a higher, faster heart rate. And that's the bell curve, or what people experience when they read a sentence like this over and over again. The body is telling you, fear, get away, disconnect, don't want any more of those uncomfortable feelings. Everything is telling you to do that. Okay, here's part 2 of the exercise. Take that same situation of yours, and we're going to work on mine, and think about 1 or 2 needs that were not met during that situation. Not met. So in my case, and this is just a really brief list here, there's a list of like hundreds of need words. I really wanted, well, let's say fairness and honesty. Oh, kindness. Really, kindness and compassion in the election. That's it. That's really what I want. So it's not on the list, but it's kindness and compassion. Then we take those words of the needs not met, and then we make a new sentence. And our new sentence says, I love it when I get kindness and compassion. Or if you don't like the word love, you could say, I really enjoy it. So now, when you ring the bell, you say the new sentence to yourself over and over time. So we'd go ding, and I'd go, I love it when I get kindness and compassion. Ding. And then we say, what's going on in our body at that time? And maybe you saw it in myself, maybe in myself, I don't know. But all of a sudden there's more smile, there's less tension. You're breathing deeper, the shoulders are back. You're not as clenched, your stomach is not flipping. And that's the general response that we see. And what the body's saying there, I am open to a life. I'm not afraid. I'm willing to engage. I have a choice because I've calmed the amygdala down. I'm still not getting my needs met for kindness and compassion in the election cycle. I'm not. But I'm more open and able to connect to life and make choice by saying, I love it when I get blank. And so that's a spiritual practice of how to come in to the present moment. Try that at home. And you could connect with us. There's emails on the end of the show. And tell me how that went with you. If it went really great, call me. If it went really bad, I don't want to know. No, I do, because we are all in this, a community together. So let's go on. What else does Latimer say that we can do? Her next step says this. We practice embracing that which we hate, our diseases, our addiction, and our troubles, so that love is felt wholly. Does this mean we must embrace cancer, death, dementia, a broken relationship? Really? Do we need to do this? It's going to take a lot of work. And so people seek sanctuary and places where they can go to help them deal with the sorrows and the loss in our lives so we can come to some acceptance around it. And some people go to spiritual communities, such as congregations that I also serve. And so this points up about how hard it can be to find sanctuary. There was a woman, and her spouse came and said, honey, wake up, wake up. And she said, I don't want to wake up. Why do I have to wake up? You have to go to church. Oh, really? People are so mean there. Nobody likes me. I don't like them. And the sermons are so boring. Why do I have to go to church? And the spouse says, well, honey, you're the minister. Right, so even people that are spiritual, seeking sanctuary in churches or synagogues or wherever we are, it's tough to find places of peace. There was a Pew study that was done in the 1980s that looked at all the world's religions. And they asked people to say whether they were religious or not. Did they go to synagogue or temple or meditate? And then they tested them for compassion. And you know what they found out? The people who considered themselves religious, were active religionists, were less compassionate than the general population. Whoops. So practicing a superficial spiritual practice may not be the way to have us choose love over fear. But here's something else they found out in that study, that about 8% of the people who called themselves religious on the forum were far more compassionate than others in the general population. So if you go deep into your spiritual practice, we can foster compassion. So 8%, that's about 1 in 13. So the next time, if you are a person that attends religious services, or the next time you're in a crowd, look 6 people to the left and 6 people to the right, and you're the only one who's not a jerk. 1 in 13, 8%. And so I'm kidding around with the word jerk, but our judging brain does that. Love that voice, because that voice is telling us what we need, how life is trying to come through us. But then let's have a choice about what we do with that judging voice. And here Jean Latimer says in the next part of her poem, we do all this work so when the moment comes, love sweeps us away. And that's the final step, being swept away. And it can come in just one moment. It really can. It takes eons, but there comes a point where off it goes. So my sister tells a story about this. She worked with a man. They didn't get along at all at work. They were really were at each other a lot. And then one day, she had a dream. And in this dream, she saw this man as a baby of pure light, and she woke up loving this man, and it sustained on her drive to work, and she gets to work, and she sees the man, and she still really likes him and is nice to him. Now, he didn't reciprocate right away, but she changed. She felt love instead of fear. And over time, he did change, and they became good friends at work. So it can come just like that. Now, I had a dream, too, where I had a change just like that. I was about ready. I was very young. I was going to go off on a long, prolonged travel expedition with a friend of mine. And I had a dream, in the dream, that I was in love with him. So I woke up the next morning, and I was in love with this man. I flushed when he called. It was just amazing. And we did end up getting married, and it didn't work out so well. So here's my point about both of these stories, is we have a choice. You know, love may lead us in certain directions, but we have a choice about what we will do with that so that it's good for us and good for the world. But you want to be able to turn on a moment, because love doesn't always come around. And when it comes around, you want to have the choice to be able to follow through on it. And if we can do that, if we can choose love and compassion, we can help others as well. Scientists have found that acts of kindness and compassion are catching. It's subconscious. So if we choose love and compassion and someone sees us doing it or senses our inner being, they are more likely to do that too. And it's even true that it can help other species. They have done work where people have pretended that they were birds. And the people with the greatest empathy in general resulted in birds that were less stressed. So we practice this for ourselves so we can be swept away by love, and so that we can also give back to a bruised and aching world. And you know, it doesn't always happen in an instant or even after eons. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all. My sister took care, the same sister, took care of my mother who had atypical dementia and the last year of her life. And they really wanted to connect, and she wanted to connect and have compassion and choose love and live out of love. And it never came before my mother died. It came afterwards, but not during the time. So there's no easy fix. There's just being present so that when it does come, you could choose love. And because it is so hard, we need one another. We need each other to be able to see the beauty that we are. So go outside and look up at the stars and know that you are stardust. We inherited that from way back. Those first stars exploded and it made our Earth and it made us. Look around at each other and see the beauty. And know that, yes, you, 2.5% Neanderthal and 50% banana, that's how much genes we share with the banana, we are so beautiful. And in that space, we can feel a lightness and have choice. Isn't it time we started to act like we were beautiful? Hard to do 3 weeks away from the election when we hear so much fear and ugliness. But we want to have choice, because the earth is at a tipping point. And not one of us can pull it back. But here's the neat thing about the tipping point. So much is at risk, but we can turn it around. This is the 80-20 world. If you're feeling dissatisfaction with something, there's likelihood that about 20% of your group or population of families feeling it too. Go find them. And then it only takes about 20% to turn around an organization or a family or a community or a nation. And so we need to find those. So that's about 2 people out of every 10. So the next time you're in a public gathering, look, 5 people on one side and 5 people on the other, and just find one of them. Have a conversation. See if you have something in line and start to take steps to go for the future. The journey is long to rewire our brain, but it can happen in a heartbeat. So look into your heart right now. What do you see? Just breathe, just be with it. Don't think, don't judge. And as you look in your heart, maybe you see darkness like Marlowe did. And you go, oh, the horror, the horror. But keep looking. There's a lot of room in there. Look for the light. Stretch your heart for the light. There's far more kindness than we ever knew. The heart knoweth. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end of this, and the work continues. Remember, this is spiritual intelligence, a lifetime practice. So here are some reflection questions that you can journal about and talk to other people at your dinner table or when you're at work or going for a walk. So keep on going with these reflection questions. You can also do some suggested actions, and here are my suggested actions for this time, is go find 4 other people. Remember, it only takes 2, but go ahead and find 4. And with them, do an action of compassion and kindness together. And then afterwards, talk about how it helps you feel lighter to help others, because that's the human condition, it does. And then ask each of those 4 to go off and find another group of 4 for an act of compassion and to feel light, and then so on. And repeat as necessary until we just clean this whole mess up. Shall we do that? Okay, further things that I can let you know about how to keep going is this practice of nurturing nature. It's a lifelong practice, and so we are forming intentional communities of solidarity, resistance, and hope. And one is meeting right here in White Plains coming up in 2 weeks on Sunday the 30th. So please check out all our resources and reserve and come to that meetup group, because we need each other to work on this. And also we have webinars online for this. The next one is on ecological intelligence, and then on spiritual intelligence. And these are coming up, and you can connect to these all through our online pieces. So let us part with these words. Our time together has now ended, but our service to the world has just begun. Go in peace and love.